So major news organizations are now covering the possibility of different alien species. That's the latest. That's been talked about, and if you're paying attention to this topic, the idea of grays and other things have been talked about many different times in this show, other shows, various shows throughout the decades, experiences that people have had, but they've never really been discussed without scoffing from media stuff, any organizations at all. And even at first it was the idea of, let's just figure out what's in the sky. What is that? The stupid comment that, the news organization, it's not about little green men. That's what they always would say to show that their viewers, don't worry, we're not going into tinfoil land, or whatever it's called, tinfoil hat land. But now, with the release of the UFO files and everything that's been coming out, more and more people are discussing these things. And even, what was it, about 6 months ago, a year, I can't remember anymore, when Eric Davis was sitting next to Burleson and other people talking about this, the different species. It's the frustrating aspect of it, because, like I said, this topic that we're about to go into, the four different species and other things that have been talked about for quite a while, could have been covered by the media a long time ago. It wasn't just because of these files in general. When you look into it, a guy who said he was working at the program, sitting next to people in Congress, and to me, that's always been a story. Being very clear doesn't mean that it's a true story. It just means it's a story. And it's interesting enough that we have people in Congress who are listening to these stories. That's enough to have a roundtable discussion and a report in the media. Nonetheless, happening now. And here is the report. This is Fox News who was talking about it. So here's the report they had on this topic.
It's the UFO files a few weeks back, and we just found out over 1 billion people have visited the site. 1 billion. It's got to be a record. The War Department says more files will be released soon. UFO experts and top researchers have been investigating aliens for years. Their sources say dozens of crashed UFOs have been recovered, and what they found inside, shocking.
And do people think that there's one type of non-human intelligence that's visiting the Earth, or is there many, many types?
People who have been involved in recoveries have said
there are at least 4 types, 4 separate types. Now, I have not had direct access to that, but I believe the people who I talked to.
4 different types of life.
4 different types of life.
4 different species of aliens. Another scientist called them greys, Nordics, insectoids, and reptilians. All of them have 2 arms and 2 legs, just like us. Experts speculate the reptilians are scaly with long tails, like a lizard. Insectoids look like a praying mantis. The greys look like your classic movie alien, and the Nordics look like a regular Swedish guy, but 7 feet tall. We haven't seen the evidence, but Pete Hegseth says more evidence is coming, and there are a lot of believers in Congress.
I have seen evidence in a skiff that leads me to believe there are things we cannot explain, and I have observed things that are of non-human origin and creation. That's my opinion.
Releasing the files isn't easy. They've been hidden for years, and a lot of people want to keep it that way.
The problem we have right now is the deep state's fighting the president on release, and he kept his word, and I suspect some of our not-so-friendly comrades and some of our alphabet agencies are slow-walking a lot of the information. It's about power, it's about control, and that's kind of what runs Washington.
So why is our own government fighting so hard to keep these secret? Well, 12 scientists have either gone missing or died. Now, we don't know if that's related, but people are scared to talk.
One I thought was going to do an interview, and then a couple days before sent me a message saying, after further consideration and long talks with my wife, I decided I'd be forfeiting my life if I participated in your interview. And I thought that was like very unsettling message to get, obviously, but also very specific word choice, forfeiting my life.
All right, so there you see Dan Farah, from the director of Age of Disclosure, who not only was in that piece that they were doing, but at the very end, I guess, does an interview with Fox. So good on him, first of all, because a lot of times people will be doing some kind of project or whatever it might be. They promote the project and then they're on to the next and it's something else. He's been very involved in the topic. He's trying to get to the bottom of it more so and trying to get more information out there, even way after the documentary has been released. The Age of Disclosure did a lot of good for the topic. And for people to it didn't really do much. There wasn't really anything new that I haven't seen before. I don't disagree with you. But what it did was it got a lot of people talking. And it's very similar to what we just talked about at the beginning of this video. The 4 different species, those types of things, that information that both Dan Farah and Hal Puthoff are talking about in that interview, that's stuff that has been talked about in this community forever. But because of the trickle effect, right? Because of the files, more people talking about it, people openly discussing it, then it's not as taboo for these news organizations to cover it. I will say, though, and you can understand it, as Jesse Walters is there talking about this topic and talking about the 4 species, if I'm brand new to it and I'm like, just what's on the news? You know, what aliens? What are they talking about? It's like, yeah, they say there's a typical gray, looks like the regular movie alien. Okay. There's lizard people. There's this. There's that. You're like, what? What are you talking about? There's no world casual people just tuning into this are going to go, oh, I'm convinced. It's a trickle effect also in how much information you have. The daunting thing, the scary thing and I'm glad that they covered it. And again, kudos to them in the way that they covered this topic, because they didn't do it with a smile and a laugh up top. And I've seen even recently with the UFO files, not even something like this, which is complete more woo-woo stuff for sure, right? The other organizations and other places, when they're covering this topic, the UFO files, well, are we alone? And it's like this goofy shit that is still not treated seriously. With everything in here, he could have laughed and said, they're saying lizard people. He took it very serious. And he said, all right, this is what they're saying. This is what is in this file. Now, Dan Farah also saying that some of the interviews that he was going to do, people were scared. People were scared for their lives, which also plays into the scientists and everything else that was going down and the investigation. There's other new news, and I think it's Burchett again saying that in this second wave, this was a concerning thing that I saw recently, that in the second wave of files, one of the things that we should expect is BS, meaning things that are in there that just aren't true. Well, then don't release them. That's going to be, the answer is going to be, well, we can't control it. That's the deep state's attempt of throwing us off the scent. So they're going to start throwing it, which would make sense, right? The next wave could be like, instead of like, look, there's some stuff that we're just not going to release. There's other things we can. Throw some crazy shit in there that just isn't true. Maybe it's lizard people, right? Maybe it's other things. Throw some crazy shit in there and then debunk it. Call Mick West. Give him what it really is. Let him debunk it and show that none of this stuff is true. And then let's move on. That's a way that you could do it, for sure. But I don't know. I just don't know. I'm skeptical. I just don't know if round 2 with fake information, with real information, is going to do anything. And I also don't know what this report is going to do long term. I think part of me says, okay, you report on it, you talk about it in the news that other organizations may or may not do it. And if certain information like this comes out, it's like, look at what happened when Obama spoke first about what he said, whatever he retracts now, what he said about aliens are real, but that got picked up by everybody. Everybody was talking about that. Then that led to the Trump statement on Air Force One, and everybody's talking about that. And then the more people that are talking about it starts to say, okay, it's time for us to start taking this serious. That could be the same with this particular story here. If more and more people say these types of things, if the stupid narrative of we're not talking about little green men, if that thing goes away, if it all is part of this, then maybe that's the next step of it. I mean, shit, man, hell's frozen over, right? You got Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about he believes it now. I think he's seeing the profit side of it for himself, ultimately, because now he's an advocate of it. What the hell did that happen? What are we? This is the Mandela effect. What's happening? Anyway. So what do you think about this? What do you think about the fact that they're covering this? What do you think about the idea of these different species? I guess that's another topic. That's another kind of more of a dive into this story. Do you believe the stories about what it is, who's here? The idea of underwater and interdimensional was always the one that makes the most sense to me. That's the way you'd be able to hide it the most. I don't think light speed and all those things and traveling around space, that just seems harder to do, even with the most advanced technology. That might be hard to do. Walking around in plain sight, 7-foot Nordic people. I don't know what are they? Are they hiding in the NBA? Like what are they doing? I don't know. So I think it's more likely because we don't really have an understanding of what's underneath the ocean. I think we're also very naive and ignorant species where we would think, well, we've been here forever. We would have seen them. How the hell do you know how long we've been here? How the hell do you know how long they've been here? You don't know. You know shit. So the mystery of it, I think, is to continue to be there. I think it'll continue to be there until you, me, all of us are way gone off of this planet. I don't know if we're ever going to see the real truth of it. But who knows? Seems like this is the most it's been talked about in quite a long time. But curious what you guys think. Put your thoughts in there. Please let me know. Make sure you click like, comment, subscribe. I might be back a little later today, too. There's another story that I really wanted to talk about, so I might drop a video a little later. Thanks for being here.